Hello, I am Masa Abushamleh, an architect at Red Hat, and in this video I will show you how to streamline migration at a scale from traditional virtual machine platforms to OpenShift Virtualization using the Ansible collection for OpenShift Virtualization migration. So, what will you learn in this video? First, you will gain an overview of the Ansible collection for OpenShift Virtualization migration. What is this collection about? How does it work? And what are its components? Then you will get to know the technologies the collection is designed and built for and how they are working together, such as OpenShift Virtualization, Ansible Automation Platform, Migration Toolkit for Virtualization, and much more. And last, you will get to see a demo and learn how to execute large-scale virtual machine migrations from existing environments such as VMware vSphere and Red Hat Virtualization to OpenShift Virtualization using automated, repeatable workflows. Now first, let's get an overview of our 3 key areas of focus. Starting with the assessment by quickly assessing the existing environment, which means gathering information about the VM inventory to create recommendations on what and how to migrate fast without missing anything. Second, automate at-scale migrations by migrating groups of virtual machines in a single playbook run. Rather than migrating one virtual machine at a time, you get to orchestrate workflows to speed up and simplify tasks like migrating the virtual machine, connecting the network or load balancer, and enrolling in security tools. And finally, streamline post-migration operations by providing advanced operational management using automation, such as provisioning new virtual machines, patching, drift remediation, security, and identifying and retiring unused virtual machines. So, what are the technologies and existing capabilities that we are focusing on in this use case? Starting with OpenShift, the platform where you get to deploy both your containerized applications and virtual machines and manage them on the same platform. You also have the supported operators to support your deployments, such as the enum state operator, advanced cluster management for Kubernetes, OpenShift virtualization, Ansible automation platform, and much more. And then one of the key operators that we are going to work with is the Migration Toolkit for Virtualization, which enables us to perform the migration from the existing environment to Red Hat OpenShift Virtualization. And of course, OpenShift Virtualization Operator, which enables us to deploy and manage virtual machines in OpenShift. And lastly, Ansible and Ansible Automation Platform to execute automation across the enterprise with a focus on OpenShift Virtualization in this use case. So, what are the Ansible collections that drive the automation for OpenShift Virtualization? Ansible fully supports OpenShift Virtualization through the Red Hat OpenShift Virtualization collection. This is a certified and validated collection on Automation Hub, where you get purpose-built modules to create, delete, and describe KubeVirt virtual machines and plugins to dynamically inventory them across the namespaces. There is also the Infra OpenShift Virtualization Migration and Infra OpenShift Virtualization Ops. Both are validated collections on Automation Hub. The OpenShift Virtualization Migration collection is ideal to accomplish the Ansible automation use cases, such as analyzing existing virtual machine hypervisor environments, installing and configuring Ansible automation platform, preparing OpenShift environments to support virtual machines, and migrating virtual machines from existing hypervisors to OpenShift using the Migration Toolkit for Virtualization. So here you see the lists of roles where we can accomplish these use cases. And then there is also the OpenShift Virtualization Ops that focuses on day 2 operations for virtual machines after you complete the migration, with actions such as the virtual machine lifecycle, VM hot plugging, VM networking, and so on. So each role targets a specific function, making it easy to plug into your workflow. To give you an overview of the workflow and how the technologies interact with each other, let's take a look at this architecture. As you can see here, we have two main environments at a minimum. The existing environment represents your traditional VM platform, where you want to migrate your virtual machines from, such as Red Hat Virtualization, VMware vSphere, and so on. On the other hand, you have the steady-state environment, where you want to migrate your virtual machines to, which represents the Red Hat OpenShift cluster with Red Hat OpenShift Virtualization. At the heart of it all is Ansible automation platform that drives the automation and orchestration for us to perform virtualization tasks, such as discovering and preparing the environment. From the existing environment, we gather information such as the network and compute and storage, and then we migrate those resources using the Migration Toolkit for virtualization. And that is by using the Infra OpenShift Virtualization Migration collection. Once the virtual machines are migrated and ready for operations and they're running, we can perform the day two operation and automation using also Ansible automation platform. And that is by using the Infra OpenShift Virtualization Ops. And now it's demo time. So as you can see right now, I'm in the overview page of my OpenShift cluster. And as an admin, I have the full capabilities to control and manage the resources on the cluster. And what I want to show you right now is a walkthrough of the operators that we will be focusing on during this demo. What I have done is I pre-configured these operators and their instances using automation. From installed operators, I will view the list of operators here. And remember, because this is a demo environment, you will find that I have all of the operators in one cluster. However, it might be different depending on the use case. In case you have a multi-cluster architecture, you might have an external Ansible automation platform instance or MTV and so on. Now, with the focus on the main operators for this demo, starting with the Ansible automation platform, which I will demonstrate shortly, we will use it to execute the automation workflows and Ansible playbooks to perform the different configurations and migrations. And then the Kubernetes enum state operator, which provides us with the functionality to configure various network interface types, DNS, and routing on the cluster nodes. And then, of course, we have OpenShift Virtualization to create and manage virtual machine resources on OpenShift. And lastly, the Migration Toolkit for Virtualization operator, which we will use its APIs to create resources such as providers, storage maps, and network maps, and then also the migration plans to perform the migration from the existing environment to OpenShift. Now let's have a walkthrough of the Ansible automation platform instance that I have deployed and configured with Ansible Navigator previously. To access it, let's go to Operators and then click on the Ansible automation platform operator. There we can see all the instances of AAP. Now, when I click on AAP, I see details about this instance, and to access it, I'm just accessing the route, which will redirect me to a new page that shows the platform. So the welcome page is the overview page that shows me an overall status of the instance, information about projects, jobs, inventories, and job activities. To view resources, let's start with the projects. So a project is a logical collection of Ansible playbooks represented in the automation controller. And in this OpenShift virtualization migration project, all the playbooks are placed into a Git source code management and is supported by the automation controller. From the job templates tab, here we can find all the job templates available under this project. Now to go to credentials, Here we can find all the credentials that include API keys, passwords, and tokens that enable us to authenticate to different systems like Automation Hub, Git, and VMware vSphere, and much more. And then for the execution environment here, which is a container image that includes all the dependencies that are needed to run the Ansible playbooks. Now let's go to templates, and here we can find a list of all available job templates and workflow job templates, which are reusable configurations that define how a playbook should be used. And here we can find all the templates that are under different organizations, including the OpenShift Virtualization Migration organization. Let's take Configure OpenShift Virtualization Migration template as an example. When I click on it, I can see more details about this job template, as you can see here. And to execute it, I can just click on Launch Template. And this will redirect us to a new page that is showing a visualization of this workflow. As we can see here, this workflow consists of two main jobs, the operator configuration and the target configuration. So the operator configuration installs the operators and configure them on the OpenShift cluster, and it will pass successfully since I have not made any changes to the inventory. And then for the target configuration, it creates a new provider, storage map, and network map, so which we will also view in a bit. It will take a few minutes for this to complete successfully. Now that the workflow has completed successfully, we can inspect the target configuration job further. The workflow includes a configure target job for every provider that is created, which we will use as a source provider for the migration. The configuration includes the creation of the provider on OpenShift cluster, creating the VDDK secret to pull the VDDK init image, and the creation of storage maps and network maps of the provider. Now let's change back to the OpenShift cluster and check the resources. In the default configuration, these resources are created in the OpenShift MTV project. However, that can also be customized in the inventory upon initial configuration as well. For example, let's take the VMware Target 1 provider as an example. A provider is a source environment like VMware or Red Hat Virtualization, and the destination like OpenShift Virtualization, which includes the virtual machines that are being migrated from the source to the destination. Here we can see the list of virtual machines and folders that have been discovered on the VMware vSphere instance that we want to migrate the virtual machines from. We can also view the list of ESXi hosts that are discovered on the VMware vSphere instance. Moving on to the network maps, which is a custom resource that maps the networks of the source and the target providers. Here we can see that the network map on the existing environment is mapped to the default network on Red Hat OpenShift. Moving on to the storage maps, which are similar to network maps, they map the storage between the source and the target environments. So in this example, we have the source storage on the VMware vSphere is mapped to the storage classes, which later on will enable us to create the data volumes for the virtual machine. Now let's configure a migration target in a separate project. We want to do that to leverage the use of separate projects for different resources like VMs and migration resources. From AAP, locate and select Configure Target VMware Target 1 workflow template and then click Launch Template. Here you can see we can provide it with variables. This way we can influence the configuration and dictate how and where the resources will be created. For example, here I'm choosing Virtualization Migration Demo as my management migration namespace. Once I click Finish, I'm redirected to a visualization workflow. This is the same Configure Target workflow that I have explained in the previous step. This workflow will complete successfully in a few minutes. Now that the workflow has completed successfully, I want to check the resources created in the namespace where I'm going to perform the migration. So if I check in network maps, I can notice the new network map has been created. Similarly, the storage map has been created as well. So I will be using these resources in the migration in the next step. Now that the OpenShift cluster has been configured for migration, it's time to perform the migration with automation. From AAP, go to Templates and then locate the Migrate job template. Click on it and then click on Launch Template. Here we will need to provide it with a variable that is called the MTV Migrate migration request. This is a required variable that provides us with information about the source provider and the target provider, the storage maps and the network maps that were created earlier, and a list of virtual machines or folders that were discovered in the source provider that I want to migrate from the existing environment to the new environment. Once it is reviewed and done, click on Finish. And now we can see that the playbook is running and we can track the status of this playbook here. It will take a few minutes for this playbook to complete successfully. Now that the migration playbook has completed successfully, let's inspect the newly created resources on the OpenShift cluster. When I go to Migration Plans, I can see that a new migration plan has been created. This is the migration plan that I requested for the migration playbook to create for me. When I click on migration plan, I can see more details about it. For example, I can see the status, which shows us the progress of the migration, the migration type, whether it is cold migration or warm migration, the project in which the migration plan is created, and the target project where the virtual machines will be created. When I click on virtual machines, I can see the list of virtual machines that I requested to be migrated. And here you can notice that we have two different pipeline statuses, succeeded and running. The succeeded status means that the migration has completed successfully. And the running status means that the migration is still in progress. There is also the failed status, which means that in case if the migration has failed at some point. When I expand one of the virtual machines, I can see more details related to the migration and the virtual machine, such as the migration progress, which shows us the current stage of the migration. And if I expand the migration resources, I can see the resources that are related to the migration and the virtual machine, such as pods and the persistent volume claims and the data volumes that are related to the virtual machine. If I click on View Logs of the pod, I can see also more information that are related to the migration plan of this virtual machine and the virtual machine itself. Going back to the migration plan, let's check the resources. Here you can see the total count of the virtual machines, the CPU count, and the total memory as well. And in Mappings tab, we can see all of the mappings, the network maps, and the storage maps that are related to this migration plan. Now let's inspect the succeeded migration. If I expand it, you can notice that all the stages have passed. And if I expand the migration resources, you will notice a new migration resource have been added, which is the virtual machine. This is the migrated virtual machine. And if I click on it, I can see it under the virtual machines list. Here you can see the overview details of the virtual machines. As you can see, it is in a stopped state right now, so I can just click on Start to start it immediately. The overview page gives us overview information about this virtual machine, like general information related to where this virtual machine is deployed, the VMI, the pod, and the operating system that of this virtual machine and also the CPU and memory utilization. As you can see, the virtual machine is in running state right now and it is booting up. If I go to configuration, here I can see more details related to the virtual machine. So if I go to storage, you can notice that I have the PVCs, the disks that have been migrated using the storage maps, and the network interfaces that have been migrated using the network map. From the console, you can access the virtual machine and connect to it directly from the web console. And with that, we reached the end of this video. So to recap, we got to explore the different OpenShift Virtualization Ansible collections on Automation Hub with a focus on the Ansible collection for OpenShift Virtualization Migration. This is where we got to see the different components of the collection, how it works, and a walkthrough demo on the different capabilities to configure and migrate to OpenShift and have a running and stable virtual machines on OpenShift. And I would like to encourage you to visit Automation Hub and explore these collections. Thank you for watching.